I first noticed them in the middle of summer, when the heat made the office air thick as glue. At first, just on my monitor, at the edges of a white spreadsheet window. Tiny black dots, sometimes flowing into a thin stream, sometimes scattering into ripples. I figured it was matrix noise, held my breath, leaned in, and the dots broke apart into legs, antennae, soft bellies light as ash flakes. They ran across the white as if over snow, leaving only the faintest trace, like a finger drawn across glass. I ran my hand over the screen, nothing, only cold, and the print of my palm. They kept running, ignoring the heat of my skin. I circled one with my cursor. It broke into pixels, then snapped back as if it had bitten its own tail. By evening, they were no longer just on the screen. On a white mug, a procession. On a sheet of paper, islands. Any light carved out a stage for them. Fewer on the gray desk, almost none on the keyboard. Black, apparently, didn't suit them. Under the desk lamp on my hand, none at all. I was mildly relieved. Hallucinations, then, only on objects, not on skin. A poor conclusion, but at the time it was a comfort. At home I turned on my desk lamp and realized that every pale surface in the apartment had become a spotlight. The insects, a mismatched, many-voiced crowd, streamed toward strips of light like heat to asphalt. They weren't roaches, fleas, or flies. They had no names. Fragments of images, short, like dumpster art cutouts. I leaned in close and felt nothing. Only my eyes registered the scurrying. My skin was as blank as glass. That absence of sensation made it worse. My mother, if she were still alive, would have called it Isoldino. If you can't feel it, it's not ours. In the dark, they vanished. Flick the switch, and the world collapsed into a black well where dull outlines of furniture could bruise your fingers when you bumped them. But the darkness had a kind mercy. Clean. No running dots. Love at first click. The next days became survival made simple. Portable lamp. Off. Laptop. Lowest brightness. Phone. Night mode. Every LED covered with tape. I lined the top shelf in the closet with black paper. By the building entrance I stepped into the shadow. On the bus I claimed the back seats, where the bulbs were often burnt out. My body began thinking in light. I chose my route by the darkest stretches of sidewalk, the way water seeks the low ground. Sometimes I tested myself, turned on a single wall lamp for a minute. The insects poured out as if from a bag. They climbed the wallpaper, marched down white doors, drew a thin shadow across the ceiling I'd once mistaken for a web. I stared hard at a single spot, hoping to catch a familiar outline, to name it woodlouse or booklouse. No, they were sharper than any species, blurrier than all of them. A construction kit made of things my brain had once seen in passing. I tried cooling the room, thinking cold would drive them off. They stayed. I bought an ultrasonic repeller. They moved through the sound like smoke. I smeared bug bite ointment on my wrist, though nothing had bitten me, just for the mint smell. Something of summer, courtyards. The scent lasted only as long as I squinted in the dark. At work, my desk was moved closer to the window. The boss said it was for the light. I smiled and nodded, counting the black specks running along his collar. They didn't touch his skin, only the white fabric. I stopped looking people in the eyes, the whites, the shine of teeth, a glint on the pupil. That was always where the most movement was. I started talking to people while staring at their shoes. It gave me away. They sent me on vacation. Take a break, brother, you're pale. I bought blackout curtains thicker than night, screwed a dead bulb into the floor lamp and taped a paper cross over the switch so I wouldn't forget. 2 days of a black TV screen, where my reflection looked like a jellyfish. The neighbors banged on the wall, thought I had a nuclear reactor. I had a well, and in the well, there was quiet. Quiet gave me a routine. I went to bed at 6, woke at 1 a.m., and the city was mine. Yard dogs slept, people breathed deep and forgotten. At night, under streetlights, they still ran, but streetlights can be avoided. I counted my steps between light pools, like a child counts cracks in the sidewalk. And if the glass tube of a lamp clicked on, I heard something click in my head too. But in the shadow, along building walls, my breath evened, and the world stopped crunching in pixels. I got a job as a night watchman at a warehouse, an old trade, back from the trunk like a moth-eaten shawl. My boss was kind, had a bad liver. "Keep the lights on, for the cameras," he said. I told him cameras see in infrared. He waved me off. "Do as you like." Infrared was a blessing. Deep red frames didn't draw movement. In the security mirrors, no dots, no lines. I sat like a moth in a box, listening only to my blood work. The doctor at my checkup listened quietly, then wrote me a referral to a neurologist. On the form he wrote, "Visual phenomena." I asked, "Is that a syndrome?" He shrugged. "Your brain. Sometimes when light is bright and contrast is sharp, it fills in." I said, "So I'm a light decorator?" He smiled awkwardly. "Try yellow lens glasses." I bought them. Through them, the world was almost the same, warmer, and they were almost the same too, just slower. Yellow taught me patience, and patience is living. I began covering even the smallest LEDs. A red dot on the speaker, blinking every 5 seconds, became a metronome for their motion. I sealed it with putty, paper, gum, learned my device's habits like a musician knows another's score. The city lived like a night inside a stomach, sometimes rumbling loud, sometimes soft. I trusted it. The first real break came in winter. Snowbanks lit the courtyard like never before. Whiteness, the perfect stage. I looked out to see if a car was stuck by the gate. The snowy night glowed like a glass jar of milk, and on it, them. An unbroken, endless carpet, not moving to anywhere, just living, in waves like wind in wheat. I stood there, felt nothing, no cold on my skin, no tickle, only my eyes saying, this here and this, and fear, like water in the mouth. I shut the curtain, almost ran to the bathroom the way kids run when they turn off the light. I realized I was no longer afraid they existed. I was afraid of being the switch, the one who could make the world safe with a click. Responsibility is exhausting. Everyone around me, who turns on lights, opens fridges, takes a child out on the balcony, they make the world dangerous for me. I started looking at the gaps under their doors, seeing slits of light like knives. I tried talking, told a neighbor about my phenomena. He said, "After my stroke, I hear ringing." Told my ex, she said, "Tesapri. That's beautiful, isn't it?" I didn't get mad. How do you explain that beauty can be like a knife across glass? That darkness isn't retreat, it's recognition? I stopped explaining. Habit replaced pity. Every LED had a cover, every crack a rag, every window another curtain. The warm, folded dark became friendly, almost woolen. My hearing sharpened. I learned the groan of the radiators, the breath of the fridge, the crawl of my pulse. Sometimes I sat for hours in a chair, imagining myself afloat on dark water, almost lulled. Sometimes, often, I wondered if I'd end up in a room with no gaps, no windows, like a magician's black box. Would it be better? Would there finally be stillness where nothing moves? I was afraid of the answer. Because the smallest light isn't a lamp. It's me, the eye, the consciousness, a spotlight you can't switch off until you disappear. That thought kept its distance until spring came, and with it, repairs in the stairwell. Workers removed the front door for a day to replace the frame. I woke to hammering and my first real panic attack. They were already in the hallway, on the white paint, swarming over the men's helmets. In my apartment, it was still night, curtains holding, but from the gap under the door, a thin line of light cut into the room. A line, and in it, movement. Like someone waking up on the other side. I lay on the rug like on a riverbank, watching that line split my black pond in two. I was saved by technique, stuffed the gap with a rug, braced it with books, built a dam. When it all went still, I realized sweat had run into my eyes, heavy drops clinging to my lashes. I licked them off, thinking how strange. The water from me was clean as a child's. My own water, my milliliters of darkness. I was the source of the dark, if you can call it that. That evening they replaced the bulbs in the stairwell, brighter now, burning with a sun that never set. I moved into the kitchen, where windows opened onto the courtyard's shade, blocked the peephole, taped over the door's light leak. Thought, half joking, if I had a friend, I'd hang a sign. Enter only in darkness. The last test came at the City Theater. On one of those rare days they screened a silent film. The house lights went out, the screen hadn't lit yet. Pure pause, pure dark. I smiled, knowing. This was mine, my field, and in that perfect pause, while people coughed and rustled into their seats, I saw a single dot. Not on the screen, on the inside of my eyelid when I blinked. It flashed and vanished. Again. I froze, blinked again. Dot. As if someone was flicking a flashlight inside my own eye. I walked home, carefully. At home I shut everything off. Black wrapped me like a coat. I sat on the floor, leaned against the wall, and slowly, deliberately slowly, closed my eyes. And light bloomed. Small, deep inside. Around it. Movement. No skin, no shiver, no tickle. Only the image. My own eye. My own lamp, too weak to warm anything, strong enough to call something to it. I sat until my legs went numb. With each flash I thought, if I just stop blinking, it'll be quiet. But the eye defends itself, squeezes shut, gives that little light, and something runs toward it. Without sound, without weight, without the right to be called alive. But it runs. I counted. 1, 2, 3. Darkness stopped being salvation the moment I understood. It wasn't saving me. I'd just been hiding from myself what I could see. And if I ever learn not to blink, it won't be a victory, only another way to pretend I'm dead. As long as I'm alive, I have light, and light is a stage, and the audience always comes. If you made it all the way to the end, then you're exactly the kind of person I'm looking for. Hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me. I hope I can keep bringing you more stories, to make you smile, or maybe, to scare you.